Hey all, this is 012 Boku, and I'm coming at you with another movie review finally of this. Yes, the Pentagon Wars. Now, strangely enough, if you have not heard about this film, I did not know about this film at all either. I heard about the Pentagon Wars here from my good friend Thunder Darkstone. If you guys are familiar with him on the web, he had shown me this movie about a year ago now, or maybe almost a year. It's been a while since we have watched watched it together, but he has gotten me into it, and it was a great overall film. The one thing that I can appreciate with it is that it is a great film of dark comedy quality plus actually really good drama. And within this drama, it has Colonel James G. Burton, who's this young colonel coming into the military to help put actually several weapons into production for the military industrial complex. And, we are like one of the the main character of this movie, General Partridge, says, the army is in the business of winning and also making weapons for war, which in a sense is true to have a good military if you have a good supply of weapons plus troops and things to use them. Where, again, we should believe, as this movie points out, that people, soldiers, and everything come first. The weapons and all that come second, because if we give them crappy stuff, people will die, people will get hurt, or, we'll even lose wars at the point of, hey, we made at least good stuff, or it looked good on paper, sort of thing. So Colonel Burton comes into that. And Colonel Burton is also, I'm going to say on a side note here, the only character whose real name is used on this, because Pentagon Wars is based on a true story of what took place during the Reagan administration between 1983 and 1986. And I believe the court hearings of this take place maybe late 80s, early 90s possibly. I don't know exactly, but I know that it definitely took place within the 80s during the high point of the Reagan administration, and where all this weird stuff took place. Not that I'm blaming Reagan for any of this, mind you, but again, every president does not know everything that goes on within their own cabinets or things like that, and that's why I think this movie is a great warning of the industrial complex and things that come with it. But Colonel Burton, comes into it, and the one he's told to focus on by General Partridge is the Bradley, which is this troop carrier. And, they do the test. The test seems simple, straightforward, a little too easy. He wants to take a look at the Bradley close up, and then two colonels, Colonel Bach or Block, I forget which it is. I think it's Bach. I mean, they say it's Bach in the credits, but I also heard Block. I also wrote down Colonel Block, but it is Colonel Bach. I spelled the name wrong. So yeah, Colonel Bach and Major Sayers just want to move it off to the field and whatnot. And all of a sudden, Colonel Burton is just confused by this. He actually gets an anonymous call and, is told to look into it more. He starts looking into this more, as you can imagine, and it just opens up a spiral of stuff doesn't make sense. None of the weapons they're testing on the Bradley are American weapons. They're Romanian. The ammunition is filled with sand. There's water in the gas tanks. Anything where, Burton uses a simulation of troops where the troops inside the tank is terribly structured, is, burnt and destroyed, because he was using dummies and they took the dummies away before he could examine them. There's a part where he actually uses sheep because there's a top secret report where he's sent by this anonymous source where there was the British study on the Bradley where the tank is made with an aluminum plastic alloy on the inside and out, where the armor isn't thick because there wasn't enough steel for the project. And if anyone is inside the tank, they'll be poisoned, they'll be killed because there's a noxious gas that's released. And he used sheep for one thing, and they used actual American missile, and it hits the tank, and there's a gas that envelops the tank. The tank, as you can tell too, doesn't also get destroyed, so it's also weird in its own way too that this tank is still standing up, even though this apparently aluminum metal is the only thing holding it together. But, they check out the tank, or the troop carrier, as this should be, because I'll get to that in a moment. I didn't mention that, but, the troop carrier, is emitting the gas, kills the sheep, and they take the sheep away before Colonel Burton can examine them. And it just becomes this whole thing of just a mix of bureaucracy, the military-industrial complex, and them just wanting to pass this thing to make money, to make as much as they can. And Colonel Burton is just trying to uncover the truth. Colonel Bach and Major Sayers and General Partridge himself, who knows about it as well, are not cooperating. They're fighting him at every turn, burying him in bureaucracy, trying to ruin his career. And apparently, Colonel Burton is not the first one to do this. There's other people who've come along with the same ideas as the troops on the base who've been near all this testing have said. You're not the first guy to come in as a white knight to try to help us. Nothing ever happens. Other people take the promotion and leave, or other people get drummed out with a yellow stripe down their back. And, no one is being very supportive. He has a few supporters. A Sergeant, let's see, I wrote it down here. Yeah, Sergeant Fanning, who supports him, and believe it or not, General Smith, who was the original designer of the Bradley, who went through all the bureaucracy of the late 60s into currently now the 80s or within the late 70s. And, them trying to build this troop carrier, find out through the film, took 17 years and $14 billion of the taxpayers' money. And it becomes this huge thing where this thing was just supposed to be a simple, light, effective troop carrier, but all these different generals in the military-industrial complex wanted it to become this big, farcical toy, essentially. And it really is amazing to see, and just the way they go about it is, again, it's funny, but I have to say at times this movie gets a little nerve-wracking because you can't believe the stuff that Colonel Burton or others went through. And I'll just say a little bit about General Smith. He's trying to help Colonel Burton, but he's doing it from the shadows because he knows if you go public with this, and again, is what General Smith did correct? No, it really wasn't. You probably should have went public with it, but at the same time, I could see General Smith's purpose because you never know if you'll be disappeared, you'll lose your career and all that. And if you guys don't know what I mean by disappeared, it's like, come on, guys, brain a little. But, I'm not trying to take it in these avenues because I'll probably do the bigger review with Jarek tomorrow, as you can imagine, and we probably will take it into these avenues. So I apologize if we do offend anybody in the upcoming review, but Jarek is going to say it like it is. I'm probably going to add a little bit. As you guys know, I use these short reviews with restraint, so that's just what I'm saying right now. And again, as you can imagine, to get to that point, to end this thing comes before Congress, and there will be an eventual test of the Bradley, which I'll leave it there. But this whole movie is a romp, and I would suggest you see it. And it's well acted by a great, great cast. Kelsey Grammer plays the very vindictive, strong-putting, and also underhanded nature of General Partridge, a great villain for the film. He's wonderful in it. Carrie Elwes, Colonel James G. Burton as the colonel who cares, who really wants to do the right thing, care about the troops, know that there really is a moralistic quality to America still, that we haven't all just become about this money and power. Viola Davis, who played Sergeant Fanning, is one of his biggest supporters. She tries to help him. She has a lot of great sarcastic wit throughout the film and is actually an enjoyable character. John C. McGinley, who plays Colonel J.D. Bach, and Tom Wright, who's Major William Sayers. They're great as General Partridge's cronies, just great as these ass-kissers who want to do whatever they can to push this thing forward. Because also, if the Bradley and all these other bad weapons get pushed forward, like General Smith says, like within the near beginning, middle part of the film, you get paydays, you get stars, ranks, all great perks come with it, which aren't naturally well-deserved, but who doesn't want more money and power, as you can imagine. You also have Clifton Powell, who plays Sergeant Benjamin Dalton, who, is really good as the cynical soldier who, is funny in many ways, but also he wants to believe Colonel Burton, but he's jaded by all the other people who came before you, so you can understand that character. Another character who made a good difference here. Richard Schiff, again, General Smith. Great role for Richard Schiff. I loved Richard Schiff's role in this. Richard Schiff really is a great actor. I don't think he's gotten the due credit he deserves, but he's really a great actor. And I love all his stuff and what he does. Just very enjoyable on screen in this movie. And I can understand his hesitancy. He plays that well. Richard Benjamin, who plays Secretary of Defense Casper Weinberger. Again, I don't know if that's his real name or if they made that up for this, but Richard Benjamin, who is the director of this movie, makes a cameo as the Secretary of Defense. He's actually very convincing as Secretary of Defense. Straight laced, but you hear the anger and the whole thing at his generals and the cabinet and everything else when it comes to making these weapons. And Olympia Dukakis, the Madam Chairwoman, really good as the chairwoman in this movie. Really good for cynical, and how I would hope our committees would be these days, but are not. But they should be like how the Madam Chairwoman was in this movie. But again, I will say, going through the cast a little bit there and doing that, again, have you guys seen this? Has anyone seen this? Do you guys like this movie? Would you like to see this movie? Because again, it really is a great film. It's a great dark comedy. There are things that will make you laugh, and it's really good for that. Good for a good laugh. But like I said, there are a few things that can drive you nutty if you don't like political intrigue or anything like that. So just, see what you think. Leave a comment down below, and we'll get this discussion going. So this is a 1-2 Boku for the Pentagon Wars, and I'll see you guys again later, all right? Bye-bye.